Hello folks, welcome to MSFS once again. We're in the Pimax Crystal and it's the turn of the Reverb G2 versus the Pimax Crystal. Now I know many of you on the channel, in fact probably most of my viewer base are Reverb G2 fans, and rest assured there is going to be plenty of content with that headset still to come. In fact, I've got a setup video that I'm going to post very soon as well. So, you know, don't worry guys, I know I'm showing a lot of the Crystal at the moment, but that's because it's a new headset. We need to learn about it together. It's a busy day aboard the Black Square King Air. We're actually off to Rotterdam, so let's get into this subject after a very quick word from FS Academy. FS Academy really does take your flight sim knowledge to the next level. In fact, you'll be greeted by a real-world pilot and instructor which will guide you through a series of different training exercises, from a GA pilot all the way up to being a full airline captain. In these tutorials, you'll get real bespoke sort of instructions, and it will really feel like the pilot is right there beside you. You'll be surprised how much knowledge you'll pick up, even if you're a seasoned veteran like me, or if you're just starting out. There is definitely a training package for you. I'll have links in the description below where you can find FS Academy, and I highly recommend that you give it a go, and it's why they are sponsoring this video. So the first thing to mention perhaps is the image quality. Now of course the Reverb G2 is absolutely beautiful. It's a great display, no doubt about it, and for the price it's the best bang for your buck, even now in 2023. However, there's a few things to mention. First of all, well, the obvious, it has Fresnel-based lenses with concentric rings, which means that you get God rays. There's a very small sort of area called the eye box or sweet spot, which means that you have to move your head a lot and keep your eyes focused upon that center point in order to get the best visuals. Otherwise, it's going to get blurry very, very quickly. With the Pimax Crystal, you've got aspheric lenses, which means, very much like the Aero, you've got about, at least 85-90% of the entire image completely clear. So, for instance, looking at this cockpit now, I can see and read everything from the airspeed indicator all the way to the other airspeed indicator. I can read both of them and everything in between. And the vertical sort of sweet spot is all the way down from where I can see the landing lights, in fact, no, the ice protection, all the way up to, well, yeah, I can see up to the top of that windshield, completely clear. In the Reverb G2, all I'd be able to see is, let's say I'm looking here at the attitude indicator. Anything past that, perhaps if I'm lucky, I might be able to read the altitude indicator, but anything else, I'm looking at the torque of the engine, I wouldn't be able to read that in the G2. It's a very small sweet spot, so that's the massive difference there. Not only that, the Reverb G2 has 2160 by 2160 resolution, which actually is a very nice resolution. I think that's the sweet spot, pardon the pun, in terms of performance and the lack of screen door effect. So you are going to get better performance in the G2, but it does mean that it's not as sharp, not even close actually. The Crystal is the sharpest and clearest headset out there, you know, very much up there with the Aero. And also colours, even though the G2 is very, very nice with the colour palette, not bad at all for an LCD. The display here with the QLED panel with local dimming is so much better. You get better blacks, richer colours, wider sweet spot. So yeah, it's an absolute win here for the Crystal, as you would expect really. In terms of field of view, well again, it's way wider than the G2 in my opinion. And that goes for both vertically and horizontally. Horizontally? Is that a word? Well, it is now. It just really is a feast for the eyes. So yeah, it absolutely beats the G2 in both field of view, image quality, as you'd expect, in all aspects. In terms of the audio, this is where it gets interesting because the G2 is the leader for audio. However, since the latest firmware update for the DMAS speakers, which is available for pre-order until June, well, it's a dead heat now, which I never expected to say. I think the DMAS solution on this is excellent. The Pimax engineers have done wonders with the firmware update. And yeah, absolutely, the integrated audio solution with the floating ear design is one of the highlights for me with this headset. It's brilliant, highly recommended. But in terms of how it compares to the G2, well, it's not any better, but it's not any worse. I think it's a dead heat there. So also worth mentioning is the tracking. Again, I think it's a dead heat in terms of the outside-in tracking solution. The head movement is pretty much the same. I do have a few issues with this wall I have here, but thank you to a few of my subscribers who have recommended putting a poster up on this wall, which will actually solve the tracking issues. That's nothing to do with a limitation of this headset. It's just an outside-in tracking thing. Both headsets do that and behave that way in the same scenario. So again, a dead heat with the outside-in tracking. They both perform really, really well there. Now, build quality-wise, I have to say I think the Reverb G2 is just a bit better. It feels a little bit more desirable to touch. Yeah, overall, the plastics just feel a little bit better quality, but again, I am nitpicking. The Crystal is very well made. It just feels a little bit lackluster in compared to the build quality of the G2. But it's not a massive deal breaker or anything like that, but it's definitely worth mentioning. What else? I'm running out of things. Well, I suppose really the obvious thing to say is that the Crystal is a massive hammer blow when it comes to features. This headset, as I've mentioned so many times now, has QLED technology, local dimming, it's wireless, as well as the huge field of view. It has great audio, very much like the G2. So it's very much future-proof. It has eye tracking, which the G2 does not have. Very soon we're going to have dynamic favorited rendering for the Crystal, which will mean in DCS world you're going to get 90 frames per second. You're not going to get anywhere close to that in the G2. It's just the way things are. What Pimax have done with this headset is absolutely remarkable in terms of the feature set. So in terms of value for money, I think the G2 is absolutely amazing value for money. And if you're new to VR, I do think that the G2 is probably a better option for you. However, if you want the best visuals, the best immersion, that higher price tag, which is about 2.5 times more than the G2, it is worth it. It really is worth it. I think, personally, the Crystal is very cheap for what it's offering. Definitely. I think the only other thing to mention before we fly off into the sunset here is the fact that the G2 is more comfortable because it's a way lighter headset, of course, and it's a PC VR headset only. So you're not going to need batteries. The Crystal does need to be charged by batteries. However, I will say that the battery life on the Crystal is very, very good indeed. Even with my fiber optic 8KX cable, so that means I'm only plugging in one USB, I'm getting well over 3 hours with this headset on with one battery. Now, if you want to increase that battery life, well, just use a fast charger plug with the original cable that comes with the Crystal. And then you're looking at perhaps even 5-6 hours or more than that. And that's something I'm going to test over time. So that's it, folks. That is my Reverb G2 versus Crystal. No mess video here today. I think it's an easy win for the Crystal. I know it's more money, but the experience is absolutely a massive upgrade, providing you don't mind the whole battery thing. I think in many ways this does make sense to upgrade from the G2, since, as I say, it's an all-in-one package. You don't need base stations, and actually the controllers, which I always forget to mention, are so much better than the archaic Windows mixed reality controllers. The tracking is a bit better, but in terms of how they feel, they're a lot more standardized, like the Quest 2 controllers, and have capacitive touch as well. I'm going to be flying all day in the Black Square King Air. I'll have links in the description below where you can find this aircraft, by the way. And of course, if you found this video useful, please do feel free to use my affiliated link. And that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I really do appreciate it. Please feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.